10 gauge mini shells. Been working on this one for about a week. Finally came up with a good solid load. Dug through a lot of forums. Finally found this one. Had a whole bunch of 10 gauge loads ranging from 7/8 ounce all the way up to, well, this one was just 2 1/4 ounce, but still quite a lot of loads in that one. A few hundred. But anyway, yeah, 10 gauge mini shells. I'll tell you what the overall length of this cartridge is. My tape measure, I believe it was 2 inches. Just a hair under 2 inches. It's 2 1/15, 16, something like that. It's close. But the load is really simple. You don't need any special components, any special sort of wad. If you load 10 gauge already, you probably have these components, and if you have 12 gauge, you definitely have this component. The primer we'll be using is the Winchester 209. Because it's a fairly mild primer, it doesn't build up a whole lot of pressure over something like a Shadite or any Magnum primers. The Shadites are a little bit harder than these Winchesters. That's why we're using the Winchester. We'll go ahead and get that seated. The hull is Remington. This was a heavy shot hull. Premier Magnum, I believe it was. It has the shiny green tube on it. Now, I don't believe they make these anymore, but I wish they did. These hulls are pretty tough, like all Remington hulls are. The plastic is good and thick. Has a nice color. I like the color a lot. Steel, brass-plated steel, as most modern shells are. Now, the powder we're using, not a common powder for 10 gauge, like, at all, but it's good for up to 1 1/4 ounce in 10 gauge, not 12. Hodgdon Clays. Very common powder, but like I said, not for 10 gauge, usually. There are loads using this powder up to 1 1/4 ounce. We're using 21 grains. A little bit more. Should do it. Yep, there we go. The velocity on this load is just shy of 1230. It's, you guys know how it goes with shot shells. From one load to the next, the velocity will be a little bit different each time. The max FPS on this is probably going to get you 1230, but it's actually, I believe the load data said it was 1227, probably. I don't have a chronograph to actually test these loads, but we'll change that down the line once we get a little bit more money going. Oh, X10X gas seal. Like I said, nothing fancy. These gas seals are very cheap, $10.99 for 250 of them. And they're just like that. Now, the 12 gauge part of this I mentioned earlier is Claybuster 1 1/8 ounce wad. You could also use your Winchester wads if you have those. Pretty much any 1 1/8 ounce shot cup will work. Where am I? There it is. Man, even the little blade of my knife's starting to get a little bit dull. Josh, if you're watching this, I need you to resharpen my knife. I cut that one a little bit unevenly. That fixed it. The base of it, I don't need it for nothing else, so just getting rid of it. I have no idea where that went. Anyway, that gives you plenty of room left to roll crimp this load. I'm using 9 pellets of double aught, which is 1.08 ounces of lead payload weight. At least my pellets are. Mine are hard cast. 6. You can use 1 1/8 ounce of whatever size shot you want. I cannot get it to work with single aught buck 31 cal with the shot cup. I have to ditch it in order to get the the 10 pellets I need for that load. But just enough room left to roll it. With buffer, it's going to bring me up to the 1 1/8 ounce. You don't have to put buffer in it if you don't want to, but I am. I'm going with the ITX buffer. Green hull, green pellets, green buffer. Well, the label's green. The buffer is actually just salt and pepper. One scoop might do it. It'll be close. A little bit more. Maybe a quarter, 1 1/4 scoops. Yeah, that's got it. Total payload weight is now 1.11. So basically, exactly 1 1/8 ounce, just a hair under. And to the overshot card, I'm using a 10 gauge nitro card. You could also use a 3/4 inch bingo chip, but I'm just using a nitro card today. Running low on bingo chips. And that looks just like that. Now sometimes these can be a little bit hard to hold on to. You guys have probably seen that in previous videos, me trying to do this by hand up on this dresser. The dresser is really tall. I don't normally do this on the bar or on this, you guys can't see it, but there's a deep freezer right here beside me. I usually do it on that. So, yeah, might have a hard time hanging on to this. Run it anyway. It's going alright. It's hard to get the leverage up here. It's coming along really well. And that's going to do it right there. I'm going to wipe that oil off real quick. Not a bad looking roll crimp. Now that hull was a little bit uneven on top, where I just snipped it off with scissors, but I could have cleaned that up, made it look prettier, but it doesn't matter. All that matters is that it's good and even, and it is. A little bit ugly in the center, but like I said, that don't matter. Maybe if you're shooting slugs it does, but I'm not shooting slugs. The Browning BPS 10 will not reliably run mini shells. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, just like any other mini shell without the OBSOL adapter. I think the Remington 870 actually runs mini shells just fine, but yeah, this shell's a little bit too short for the BPS. I suppose one could make the argument that 2 3/4 inch 10 gauge are mini shells for the 10, but to me, mini shells are anything under 2.5 inch, which is a standard shot shell length. Not a lot of shells you can just go and buy commonly are loaded 2.5 inch anymore, aside from the 410. And obviously 24 and 32 gauge, they're both 2.5 inch. Actually, I have all three sitting here. There's 24, hold on, let me get this lined up better. 24, 32, and 410. No, they're all 2.5 inch length. You can get 410 and 3 inch length though. You know what's stupid to me? Factory 24 gauge ammunition is just like a 3 inch 410 11/16 ounce, but it does have significantly higher velocity. That's the only difference. Same payload weight. 24 gauge can go all the way up to an ounce. But one more cool thing to show you guys before I sign this video off. What gauge do you think this hull is? If you say 16, you'd be wrong. Obviously it's smaller than 12 gauge. 28 gauge is smaller than this. 24 gauge don't come in 2 3/4 inch. This is 20 gauge, and yes, it is a clear hull. It's a shutout hull. I got these on Gumgolly Provision. If you Google them, you'll find them. They're pretty easy to find, actually. Just go on their website, type in hull. You'll see these. They have them in clear, obviously, and their website says they have some in copper too, but I did email them and they haven't reached out to me to confirm that yet. There are no pictures of the copper ones online, and they do have 12 gauge 2 3/4 inch shells that are copper, so I'm thinking it might be a mistake. But if they do end up having copper 20 gauge shells, you better bet I'm picking some of those up too. Because like I said in a previous video, the reason I don't like 20 gauge is because of the ugly yellow hulls. That's the only reason. 20 gauge is a great gun, but clear hulls and 20 gauge, yeah. Well, they don't come just like that. They come like this with branding on it, but I took some acetone, just wiped that off. What they are Rottweil, trying to get this. They're Rottweil, like the dog, Rottweiler laser slugs. 2 3/4 inch Magnum 20 gauge. I bought 200 of these, and yeah, the only reason I bought them is because they're clear. I have some loaded. 1 second, let me grab them. Alright. Starting off here, these are the ones I didn't erase. That is a 1 5/8 ounce payload, 7.5 shot. No, this is 6 shot. No, it's 7.5. Yeah. 28 grains of little gun. The low profile gas seal. 1/4 inch fiber cushion wad, and 1 5/8 ounce of 7.5. This one is a 10 pellet single up buck load. Mom went blank there. This one is a 1 ounce socket slug. Another 10 pellet single up buck load. 12 pellet 29 cal #1 buck load. And this one is 1 1/4 ounce of single aught buck. 12 pellets. Rainbow. I broke down an old 3-inch shell. I did find 1 1/4 ounce data for 2 3/4 inch hull, so I put it back in this hull. And it looks pretty cool. See guys, these 20 gauge clear hulls, they look a lot, to me anyway, they look a lot classier than just yellow. Being able to see through it like that it's just awesome. Huge fan of these clear hulls. Alright guys, that's going to end the video here. If you got any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. Please subscribe, like the video, we really appreciate that. Once again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.